How is an Orlando property developer and entrepreneur forever linked to the war effort in Ukraine? How can you watch a movie about it? And how can you help? I'm Phil Kruse, and welcome to the Orlando Real Estate Lifestyle. Today, I'll be interviewing Peter Duke, who I interviewed this time last year. Okay, we're going to be talking about something different today, though. He's the founding member and co-star, former co-star, I guess, of Zombie House Flippers, a show about house flipping that's still on A&E. Started here in Orlando. He became a home builder. He's a property developer, and as you're going to find out shortly, he's also a documentary film producer, co-star, and philanthropist. Peter Duke, welcome to the Orlando Real Estate Lifestyle, and thank you for being here yet again.
Wow, thank you, Phil. That's a glowing introduction. That's actually the nicest series of things I've ever heard said about myself in a row.
Well, you'll be hearing a lot more of it, I think.
Oh.
You deserve all the kind words. You're a great person. If anyone doesn't know Peter personally, he's just an amazing guy. But for the listener out there, I want you guys to understand what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about how Peter got involved with the war effort in Ukraine, his experience with delivering trucks directly through war zones, and how his journey has led him, how his life journey has led him to becoming a documentary film star and producer. But before we dig in, I want you to know a little bit more about Peter and how you can donate to his cause, and about his upcoming release of his documentary. The name of his documentary is No Sleep Til Kiev, and you can find that on Instagram at No Sleep Til Kyiv. You can view the trailer on there with the links provided. It's super good, highly produced. I mean, this is a legit documentary film, very professional. It's actually being premiered April 9th at the Penn Social in Washington, D.C., which coincides with the American-Ukraine Action Summit. And it's going to be available for you after that date on the Gather platform, which you can get on your smart TV. It's going to be pay-per-view, $10 per view, and you know half of that $10 is going directly to what we're going to be talking about today, which is this special organization that Peter is involved with. And if you want to know more about Peter directly, you can also follow him on Instagram at Duke Bravo. And of course, I'm a real estate agent, and one of my main lead sources are listeners like you. So when it's your time to make a real estate decision, think of me, Phil Kruse. That's Kruse with a K, Kruse. I'm on all the social platforms, just like Peter. So you can find me by searching my last name. Of course, a portion of all my real estate commissions go to charity. I volunteer at the New Image Youth Center in downtown Orlando every Wednesday. I was just there yesterday teaching them improv. It was amazing. And of course, like and subscribe to my podcast on YouTube. If you're watching there, hit the bell, or on Spotify or Apple, wherever. Subscribe. I drop new episodes every Monday, and I interview great guests, local Orlando guests like Peter, people that are changing the world, frankly. Okay, so let's dig in. I want you to imagine that you're driving a large pickup truck. It rumbles across a bumpy road, and in the far distance are pillars of smoke rising into the sky, and you hear the far-off sounds of explosions. As you approach, an air raid siren blares, but you aren't fazed. You feel a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that you're driving a truck that will help save someone's life. So, Peter, I'm going to bring you in here. The story I just told is one that you are intimately familiar with, but let's start at the beginning. What first prompted you to get involved with the war effort in Ukraine?
Yeah, so I remember right where I was when I first heard about the truck convoy effort. I was at a car show, and my friend Jordan turned to me and said, "Hey, my buddy, he's gonna drive a truck over in Ukraine." I said, "I'm doing that." It was like instantaneous, and I was like, "Well, what's he doing there?" He's like, "Well, they're going to do a convoy for some aid group," and just I was enrolled from the first second that I heard that. And someone asked me before, like, why would you cast your lot in with something you weren't even familiar with and become committed to it? Like, I became committed to it after going and seeing what was happening there. I threw my lot in with it because sometimes in life, there's something that happens where I think that it's of great importance. And if you can be involved in something like this, it'll make a change in your life for the better. To me, like what's happening there is a black and white conflict. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors around the reasons and stuff, but for very simple psychological reasons, one should understand whom the aggressor is and who needs defending. So I just I knew at this time it was a moment to rise to the occasion.
Well, that's amazing. And it's to me, a testament in life about surrounding yourself with like-minded people and people that support you and build you up. I mean, if Jordan never mentions that to you, maybe you never find out about this and you never take this next step. And so I want to continue on down that path, though. I happen to know that the organization that you're working with is called the North Atlantic Fella Organization, which I think is a great name. So can you tell us what that organization is?
Yes. So, as I have heard online, we are a CIA structured and sponsored organization. That's whom we draw our paychecks from, a
Really?
nefarious gang of spooks.
Huh.
The craziest things come out of Twitter, but that's a real vibe coming from Russia. So somehow,
Oh, wait. So just to be
yeah,
clear, that's some fake news propaganda coming from Russia, right?
in some people's minds it is. In
Okay.
some people's minds, this is a bona fide truth,
Okay.
such as the nature of opinion.
Okay.
But what we are, from all objective perspectives, it's a loosely knit group of people who came together in this social media era and said, I support Ukraine. Well, I do too over here. And that's something I believe in. And these people all around the world have come together under the loosely knit umbrella of the North Atlantic Fellows Organization, kind of a riff on NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, because
Ah,
where NATO can't or won't participate in this, I mean, treaty-wise, they're not obligated to. Ukraine's not a member. So Article 5 of mutual self-defense wouldn't be invoked. They can't stand up, or maybe they don't want to, but that's a political discussion. The fellas stood up and they began growing across the space of Twitter, other social media, and personal interactions. And some of the most active fellas were in the areas, of course, that know Russian aggression most intimately. And in the Baltic states, they're Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and the tiniest of those, Estonia, is where some guys got together and said in the first week of the war, we're going to do something to help. And what that something is deliver trucks to the troops.
okay.
And so they started the 69th Sniffing Brigade, but it's the NAFO Brigade because, again, it's a loosely knit organization, and you can become a member of NAFO just by saying, I'm a fella, I am NAFO. And there you are. Start doing what you feel is right and good to help.
Nice. Okay. So you touched on what NAFO does. You mentioned the trucks and the delivery. So let's kind of just suss that out a little bit. So frankly, what you do and what NAFO does is you get trucks, you refurbish them, and you deliver them to Ukraine, quite simply. So
Yes.
how do you guys get your hands on these trucks? What kind of trucks are you getting? And what do you guys what do you want to do with them once they're war ready?
Yes. So what makes us a little bit special is I think our effort is more focused. There's lots of great organizations that are working hard to deliver supplies, and they'll roll any manner of vehicles there, and a lot of those are specific vehicles and very sorely needed. But for the trucks we delivered, we wanted it to have a uniform quality, and so they all meet these criteria. They're all going to be secondhand, of good quality, 4-door, 4x4 diesel pickup trucks.
Interesting.
Now, within those bounds, there are some variations, but we've got people that initially, they had a used truck they didn't need on the first convoy. When the founder, Ragnar Sass, said, we're doing a truck, effort, I'm taking my Toyota, his friends started pitching in, well, I've got an extra truck, or I'll buy this truck from my buddy and I'll send it. And so like 14 trucks went on that first trip. Of course, they tuned them up. They don't want to get stranded. They tune them up, they work them over, and they just took them in their like factory paint they rolled out. So since then, we have gotten a team established, a mechanic shop, a paint shop, all this stuff. And so the standard treatment to one of the trucks is they get a mechanical makeover. Everything is tested, gone over, fixed. They get new tires, street tires. They get a second set of tires, mud tires, mounted on rims in the bed. Because when the trucks hit the ground off-road, and they need to switch immediately. I'll tell you more about that, about the mud tires specifically saving lives later on.
Yeah.
But that they get a camo paint job, and then they get like our little whimsical stencils on it, like the NAFO fellas. It doesn't matter. It all looks like camo in a bush, They get a drone jammer nowadays because the drone threat is the number one threat to anything on wheels or feet actually on the front. And so they get an electronic drone jammer. They get a night vision camera. So they have like a small display inside, and they can drive with the headlights off at night. That saves lives also. There's the headlights on, you're driving, it's a moving target.
Yep, no kidding.
Yeah, you can see you. So night vision camera, the drone jammer for self-defense. Some of them get specially outfitted as medevacs with a higher camper back with lighting inside and some power sources and like a rollout stretcher. Some of them are specifically outfitted with a little bit of armor kit, which although that's usually fit locally in Ukraine.
Okay.
But by and large, they meet those criteria that I said. So it's a truck we would all be familiar with driving. Just a good size 4-door, 4x4, you know, Toyota Tacoma on up size truck.
Okay, so
Yeah,
well, let's keep going with that then. I can imagine the truck. You did an amazing job of describing it. That sounds daunting, but cool actually. And you got to get them over there. So I'm going to ask you two questions, and one here. If you guys get these trucks here in Orlando or anywhere else in the United States, how do they get from the United States or any other country for that matter over there? And
right.
I'm gonna latch that onto the fact that you have driven these trucks before, so you can actually take us through the process of once they get there, how do they get to the front lines, and what the hell was going through your mind when you made the decision to drive one of these trucks?
Right, right. Well, the trucks themselves, we've never sent one from America.
Okay.
So there's been some guys that have driven them from the UK, but the shipping costs would kind of negate any like additional like delta you could capture from any like price differences in the two. And then also the paperwork to import it across those borders is very onerous. So they've all been bought in near Estonia, but of course, as we've depleted the market of trucks, we alone have shipped over 600 currently, you know. So you start buying up all the trucks in the area that meet those qualifiers that are worth a hoot and that the price is right. So they found some Swedish mining concern that had a huge fleet of these type of trucks, and we buy their surplus as it gets dispensed with. And of course, fellows are always looking in the area, you know, but the completion cost of each truck is around 20 grand, and we economize a lot of that. That's completed, done. We economize a lot by not shipping the truck from its like acquisition point. A fella will drive it. Hey, I'm going to be going there. My buddy can go. He can drop me off at the train station. So the trucks have to get from where they come from to Tallinn to start with. And then the makeover begins. There's a lot of work and coordination and trust with funds moving. And 600 times this process has been played out, you know, and it always works seamlessly. These are a lot of committed and capable and trustworthy people involved in this whole process. So they're in Tallinn, they receive the makeover, and then they need to be transported to Ukraine. They drive them. So
where is that city you're saying, Peter?
It's Tallinn is the capital of Estonia.
Okay.
Tallinn.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Not
they drive
Thailand.
them. Somebody donates their time, basically, drives them to Thailand, and then what's the next step?
So when they're ready, we'll arrange a convoy, which have taken shape now on average every month. And they've grown in size. So a current convoy can stretch up to 20 something, 30 something trucks. And we'll break them into like, you know, 4 sub convoys that depart 30 minutes apart. But we all gather together in the heart of this regentrified industrial district in Thailand. It was like a former Soviet industrial area, really downtrodden, and now it's been improved, and they've got these great restaurants and shops and really trendy area with food stalls and stuff. It's cool. Thailand is hopping with a booming tech economy. So anyways, this is the ground zero where we take off from. So we get in our trucks at 5:30 a.m. The teams of drivers, 2 per truck, drive the loaded trucks out in these groups. And we always follow the same, you know, the same journey, the same stops almost always. And it's like a stop every couple of hours, you know, stretch, eat, whatever. And then every other stop we fuel up. And we do this nonstop until we get to our destination in Kyiv. And it's depending on conditions and how long the border crossing takes, you know, 30 something hours.
And then you guys, 2 people per truck, I'm assuming y'all take turns driving, the other person gets to rest, that sort of paradigm?
Yeah. One guy takes turns, you know, trying to like sleep, like with your head wedged into the worst coach seat you were ever in. And in the summertime, you hope the truck's AC works. And in the wintertime, you hope the seat heater works because it gets fucking cold. Really cold. Yeah.
I bet. So I already mentioned that you've personally driven these trucks before. So I want to know, how many times have you made that trip? And then what's the craziest delivery story that you have?
So I've made the trip 5 times, and we'll be going back this May for the 6th. And then every time I, drove the trucks on that same journey I just shared with you. And the first trip was in February of 2023, just 1 year after the full-scale invasion had begun. And the most recent was this past February, just a month ago.
And any crazy stories? I swear you told me.
Yeah.
One
so
there's
been highs and lows. Definitely it's emotionally taxing, and you're physically tired and stuff, and there is stress because you're driving into a nation at war. Yeah. But the crazy is we were filming the actual documentary in November of 2023, and I was driving one of the trucks equipped with a camera, which is not too distracting, just the thought, but the cameras are like one here, one over here, one GoPro here. They're like microphones hanging in the cab. Your field of vision is kind of obscured. And then you're talking to the person next to you because for part of the time, you want to get some conversation flowing. So I'm driving on this road, following the rest of the convoy, and we've got cameras pointing outside this truck and stuff. And I look over and I tell my friend, I said, "Hey, you see these skull and crossbone flags on this field here? That's a minefield." And actually, the reason they've not harvested any of the crops you can see there is because there's mines. And I look forward, and the convoy had stopped for a turn, and I stomped the brakes. The road is icy, and I slide to the left into the oncoming lane where there's a Volkswagen coming at me. We're both like on the ice. The trucks are whizzing by me on the right because that's how fast I screwed up. I would have been like a 4-truck collision if I hadn't gotten on the brakes. I skid down the icy road next to the skull and crossbones tape and come to a stop in front of this Volkswagen.
So you almost
3 different ways to die, or at least wreck the truck into the back of the convoy, the Volkswagen, or the minefield. And what's crazy is just like a month prior to that, in that same area, this is on the road to Borodyanka, which was very close to where the Russians came in when they invaded from the northeast. They got close to Kiev. This is sort of where the battle was stopped. A family was driving to Borodyanka on the same road we were on, and they pulled off on the shoulder on the safe side of the mine tape, and their car got blown up on a mine.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Jeez,
yeah. So anyways, my luck held. I'm not sure if my driving partner's faith in me survived the accident or near accident, but that was a close call.
Wow. No kidding. That was a close call. The fact that you did that, had a near life death experience, and continue to do it is a testament to your character and how much you're fully committed to this. So you mentioned that part of the reason you spun off is because you had the cameras mounted and you started doing a documentary film. So I want you to tell us about your experience with that. Basically, how did you get that role, and how was it for you to film and do it? And really, what's your end goal with doing something like this?
So after I'd returned from the February convoy, and I'd stayed in touch with people that I'd met there and people that are doing the effort. One of my good friends that I met on the convoy was Dmitry Nasinek, and he's like one of the organizers, the chief, facilitators of the convoy. He's been involved from the beginning. And he's also a filmmaker. He made a film called The Secret, which was like a 17-minute short, and just expert film production quality. And it was amazing just to see someone up close create that craft. The Secret was not about anything about current events. It was a very atmospheric romance kind of tragedy. You have to watch it. But I started thinking over that summer, I was like, I bet someone could make a movie. Someone should tell this story. They're heroes. There are heroes amongst us serving heroes. So I thought about it some more, and I reached out to my friend Keith Ory. He was on Zombie House Flipping with me, and he said, "Well, why don't you call our director, Eric Liebman? He would be amazing at this." And so I'm not a filmmaker, but the team began to kind of coalesce. And so after talking with Eric, I knew more about the pieces that would be involved and the costs and so on like that. And so it started to become like a reality in our heads. And then Jordan, bring him back into the story. Jordan Thies, my friend, offered to pay half of the production costs, which are not insubstantial. So with that backing and just that hand on the shoulder and vote of confidence, we moved forward. So we filmed it in November of 2023. Now it has been with great regret that it took so long in the post-production. Movie making is not easy, and making a documentary it's akin to this. If someone gives you a regular film script, they're like, here's a puzzle, put it together, all the pieces, and here's the picture of what it should look like. Da-da. A documentary is like someone dumping a bunch of puzzle pieces in front of you with no picture for reference, and you're not even sure they're from the same puzzle. You're not even sure they will fit together, and you make something of it. You take all this footage, but there's no script. You don't know what you're going to make. And so as a neophyte filmmaker, I don't know what I'm doing to direct the process. It slowed things down. Here we are. It's April. It's 18 months after we filmed it. It's finally getting released. And the timing couldn't be more perfect. Like fate has a way of just bringing it all together. Like this moment is so critical right now with these conversations with Russia looming and the threat of people losing interest, the threat that they might just be traded away, for some insignificant political point somewhere. Like this is a nation of outstanding people like us Americans going through their trials for independence. And I think there's so many parallels that the story had to be told.
Wow, that's amazing. And you're right. I mean, it's sad to say, but you would have loved to have hoped that the post-production took so long and it took us past the war, but that's just not reality. And unfortunately, we still have the war, but as you've alluded to, there's a silver lining, and hopefully it's going to jumpstart the awareness from the American people and others. You mentioned a few folks that have helped you locally. You mentioned your director from your zombie house flipping days. Are there any other folks, people, organizations here in Orlando and Central Florida that are integral to this and that are supporting you?
No, this pretty much just took off, the genesis in my own mind, and then I brought together the team that I kind of touched on before. The biggest help has come from Ukraine, believe it or not for lack of capability in the Central Florida area. Maybe I just don't know the right people, but whenever we've needed anything on the post-production side, whether it was a score for the music, the original composition, or graphics artists, just, providing movie posters, there's this whole, the effort that goes in the post-production is huge. You need so many different people put together. It's intimidating. And I've turned to Ukraine, and without fail, everything got done better than expected, quicker than expected. I mean, these people are a sight to work with. They do everything with such just like, I've given like some short videos that I've shared on my visits there, and I'm like, look at this convenience store. Like even all the labels are fronted on all the cans of Red Bull on the cooler. Like every detail, it seems like the people care. They care about. And maybe being in a nation at war does that to you. Maybe it just makes everything, more precious, brings it in sharper focus, makes it worth doing your life right. But definitely, they've been huge supporters in getting this thing to the finish line when it did and how it did. We'd probably still be working on it without them.
Still piddling around.
Yeah. And Eric is also a great coordinator. Eric Liebman, my friend who is the director, him and his team in California have also done great work with the editing. George Dano, also our friend who's one of the producers there, also Philip. So everywhere we've turned, we managed to get the right people together at the right time to make it come to fruition.
Amazing. So I'm getting towards the end here with one of my last questions. Somebody listening out there for sure is going to be inspired by what you've just discussed. But what advice would you give to someone who wants to start giving back to their community, whether it's helping directly with your cause or with something that they're more passionate about? What's your advice about getting them started down that journey?
Yeah, this advice is all kind of flow stream of consciousness here, because it's so recently I went through these paths myself. I had no, prior experience in establishing a nonprofit, but I did. I set up a 501c3, Patriots for Ukraine, in order to gather funds in a tax-deductible fashion here in the U.S. and share it with the brigade. Well, we send it actually 100% of it to the brigade. Doing this stuff, you have to just start like if you have a vision, something that moves you, you have to start with a Google search, like figure out the pieces. Just dedicate 15 minutes every day, like you would brushing your teeth. Just take a moment to go Google some step in the process. How do I, Chat GPT, what if I want to get the creative juices flowing? And then once you start acting on those things or finding people that can help you, if you need someone to delegate it to because you're very busy or don't have the capacity, do that. But once it starts and the right people come into play, the pieces will start fitting together. Our completed documentary is a testament to that, because I knew nothing of this when I went into it 18 months ago.
I hear you loud and clear. And what I take away from that is take action, right?
Every time.
If you have an idea, you want to give back to your community or to your cause, you have to get that out of the thought phase and into the action phase, which is what Peter mentioned with using ChatGPT or Google. And then, you can hitch your wagon to somebody like Duke. Hey, Duke, you reach out to him, be bold. Hey, how can I help at this point moving forward? You can reach out to Peter and say that, or you can reach out to the charity of your choosing that is already doing some of the work that you want to do. Go work with them, learn what they're doing. And then maybe you can branch off and do your own thing, or you can just stick with them. But with anything in life, whether you're a property developer, an entrepreneur, a school teacher, you name it, taking action on your ideas is what's going to move you forward in your profession and in your life.
So let me take a moment to expound on that. You actually hit the nail on the head. So many people will talk about what they do or how they do it, and you think you need to be an expert in all these things or buy their course. You just have to take a little bit of action. I'm a procrastinator. I sit around and spin my wheels endlessly, it feels like. I sit down like, I have so many things to do. What should I do? I don't know. It's like a squirrel mind thing. Just take a short amount of time. Take a little bite out of your project every day. Search the next step if you don't know what the next step is, and you'll get there. It boils down to that one action. It's a switch. You flip it on or you leave it off.
Agreed. And you're listening, for you listening out there, Peter's a very successful guy here locally, has evolved in his businesses over the years. And for someone like me that's only gotten to know him the last few years, it's been impressive to see what he's done in only the few years that I've known him, and also getting to understand his background a little bit more. So, if he's calling himself a procrastinator, we all feel that way sometimes. We all feel like we're procrastinating. We all feel we're not being productive. Don't focus on the negatives, focus on the positives. What am I doing? What is that little bite of the apple? And the consistency. Do it every day. Get yourself on a schedule. You will accomplish your goals. So, Peter, thank you for that insight. I want to jump in and say, guys, Orlando for me is the best city in the United States. And folks like Peter Duke are part of the reason for that. Not only is he here building amazing homes in and around the Hourglass District, now he's developing large parcels of land and helping our community expand with new homes and bigger developments. I know he's worked a little bit with Giovanni Fernandez, who I interviewed a couple weeks ago. They're buddies. So he's connected here in the Orlando scene, and Orlando is full of entrepreneurs and full of people giving back to the community. I know it. Peter knows it because he was just at my house last week at a networking event where we had a lot of like-minded people discussing the different ways and the diverse ways that they give back to Orlando and to their causes. So if you want to find out more about what Peter's doing right now with this documentary, again, it's on Instagram at No Sleep Til Kiev. There is donation links there. As he alluded to, the donations are going directly to the cause. And when you want to check out the documentary release, which is going to be on April 9th, again, you're going to want to find it on the Gather platform. Pay $10 to watch it. Yes, it's pay-per-view, but again, half of the proceeds are going directly to the war effort, and you can keep track of what Peter Duke has going on himself personally, which are basically tied into the No Sleep Til Kiev. Of course, he's also on Instagram at Duke Bravo. Peter, thank you so much for being here today. You've been an amazing guest.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate you hearing it. Have a good day.
My pleasure. My pleasure, brother. And of course, if you guys want to find out about my real estate services, Phil Kruse, that's Kruse with a K, Kruse. A portion of all my commissions go to charity. Like and subscribe to me on all my social platforms. Follow me there. I produce pieces of content like this conversation with Peter on there in more bite-sized forms. I have all kinds of useful information of not just about Orlando real estate, but also Orlando lifestyle. I do a weekend post every Friday, what's going on every single weekend. I think I provide a lot of value for you listening out there, and follow me and subscribe to all my podcast platforms, YouTube, Spotify, everything like that. Always know that your best life in Orlando is within reach. Keep embracing every moment. Peter, thanks again.
That's right. Thanks, Phil.
Cheers, guys. Have a great day.